They cried out for help, and the Deathworlders came instead. The planet's thin atmosphere and constant dust storms forced the settlers to rely on life support systems that hummed and hissed in every building. The settlers had hoped for a rich, welcoming world, but Remora 9 had other plans. Water was scarce, crops struggled to grow in the poor soil, and the storms often lasted for days, shaking the metal structures and testing human endurance. Captain Alara Wynn stood on the observation deck of the central hub, staring out at the endless horizon of rust-colored plains. Dust swirled in the distance, shaped by fierce winds that no human could withstand without protection. Her team of scientists and engineers moved around her, working on machines that hummed and blinked with delicate life support data. Despite the hardships, she felt a flicker of hope. Humans were nothing if not resilient. Alara's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden blare of an alarm. The primary oxygen recycler was failing. It had been acting strangely for days, and now it was reaching a critical threshold. Panic rippled quietly through the crew, restrained by training and discipline. But in moments like these, even the most seasoned humans felt the weight of their mortality. "We've got 24 hours before we drop below safe oxygen levels," reported Dr. Malik, the colony's chief engineer, his voice steady but tinged with worry. "The backup systems won't last through the next storm. We'll need outside help fast." Alara nodded. She had expected this possibility. Remora 9 isolation meant that external assistance would be slow if it came at all. Still, the humans had one advantage: a communications beacon capable of sending distress signals to nearby star systems. The problem was, most of the neighboring systems were far, and aid was often slow or selective. "I'll send the distress call," she said. The words felt heavy in the room. Sending a distress signal was admitting vulnerability. But humans had faced worse, and she knew that sometimes hope began with a simple message. The communications officer, Jaren, moved to the console and activated the long-range transmitter. "Coordinates set, message encoded, ready to send." Alara took a deep breath. "Do it!" A soft hum filled the room as the beacon powered up, the signal piercing the void of space. The message was simple: Remora 9 colony in critical need, life support failing. Requesting immediate assistance. Humans in peril. For hours, the crew waited. They monitored the systems, patched minor failures, and tried to maintain calm. Every beep of a failing sensor reminded them of their fragility. In the silence between storms, the human mind tends to wander to extremes: fear, hope, and sometimes imagination. Then something unexpected happened. A faint shimmer appeared on the long-range scanner, unlike anything the humans had seen before. Not a fleet of sleek human or known alien ships, but something massive and unfamiliar, moving with an almost deliberate patience through space. "What is that?" Jaren whispered, eyes wide. Alara leaned over the console. The scanner displayed enormous shapes, rugged and armored, unlike any ship designed by humans. They were jagged but efficient, shaped for survival in extreme conditions. Even from this distance, their presence was intimidating. "It can't be," Malik said, squinting. "We didn't call anyone that far. Those ships, they're Deathworlders." A shiver ran through the room. The Deathworlders were a species known throughout the galaxy, though rarely encountered. They thrived in worlds that humans could barely imagine, planets of scalding heat, crushing pressure, or toxic atmospheres. Legends spoke of their endurance and strange, almost alien ways of living. They were not violent in the traditional sense, but their survival skills made them formidable and utterly unpredictable. Alara's stomach tightened. We didn't ask for this, but there was no time for doubt. The ships were closing fast, their massive forms casting faint shadows in space. "Open a channel," she commanded. "We need to communicate." The alien response came in pulses, not in words, but in a pattern of deep, rhythmic vibrations that the ship's translator struggled to interpret. The sounds were intimidating at first, like distant drums echoing across the void. But gradually, the translator converted some of the signals into approximations humans could understand. "We saw your distress. We are coming." The words were simple, yet profound. The Deathworlders were coming, not as conquerors, not as opportunists, but as responders. "Prepare for landing," Alara said, her voice firm. She did not feel fear. Humans did not thrive on fear alone. They thrived on action, on adaptation. And whatever came next, she would face it with her team. When the Deathworlder ships descended, Remora 9 seemed to hold its breath. Dust swirled violently as massive alien vessels touched down, their landing stabilizers sending tremors through the ground. Humans watched from the safety of reinforced observation decks, hearts pounding. The doors of the alien ships opened, revealing figures unlike anything humans had seen. They were tall, their bodies encased in natural armor-like skin, tough enough to survive extreme heat and cold. Their limbs were long, strong, and oddly graceful, designed for efficiency rather than aesthetic beauty. Eyes that reflected faint light surveyed the human colony, curious and cautious. Despite their intimidating appearance, the Deathworlders did not advance aggressively. They moved with purpose, analyzing the environment, taking in the failing structures, the struggling crops, and the flickering lights of the life support systems. Alara took a deep breath. She stepped forward onto the platform that connected to the aliens' landing craft. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to remain calm. Humans had always been small, fragile creatures in a vast, hostile universe, but they had something unique: ingenuity and the will to survive. The first Deathworlder approached, lowering a massive, clawed hand. Instead of hostility, it seemed almost ceremonial, as if acknowledging the human's struggle. Jaren held the translator device carefully. The alien spoke, its voice deep and resonant through the translator. "We will help. We survive where others fail. We will make your world livable." A wave of relief washed over the humans. The Deathworlders did not promise easy solutions, but they promised survival, and in a place like Remora 9, that was everything. Over the next hours, humans and Deathworlders worked side by side. At first, communication was slow, reliant on gestures, visual aids, and trial and error. But humans are fast learners. They observed the aliens' methods, how they filtered water through native minerals, how they reinforced structures to resist the dust storms, how they cultivated resilient plant species. The Deathworlders did not rush. They approached each problem systematically, demonstrating techniques that were alien but brilliant. Humans took notes, sketched diagrams, and attempted to replicate the methods using their own technology. Alara watched her team with pride. Even in the face of uncertainty, humans adapted. They collaborated not just with their own kind, but with creatures so different they seemed almost unreal. Yet the bond of shared purpose grew stronger with every passing hour. By nightfall, Remora 9 looked different. The life support systems were stabilized, reinforced by alien designs. Water reservoirs were replenished, crops transplanted into alien-engineered soil beds. The dust storm still raged outside, but inside the colony, humans and Deathworlders had created a small pocket of safety, a sanctuary born of cooperation. Alara stood once more on the observation deck, gazing at the faint lights of the alien ships. They were still mysterious, still massive and foreign, but there was something reassuring in their presence. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. Humans had cried out for help, and though it came from the most unexpected source, help had arrived. That night, the humans of Remora 9 slept in uneasy comfort. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more storms, more problems. But for now, they had allies in the most unlikely form. Deathworlders, creatures of legend and survival, who had arrived not to conquer, but to teach and assist. And in that moment, Alara understood something profoundly human. No matter how fragile, small, or unprepared humans might seem, they possessed a unique strength, the courage to call for help, and the resilience to learn, adapt, and thrive, even when the universe sent the most unexpected of teachers. The stars outside shimmered coldly, but Remora 9 glowed with warmth, a tiny testament to human ingenuity and the beginning of a bond that could change the course of the colony forever. The sun of Remora 9 barely pierced the thick red dust hanging in the sky, yet the colony was alive with unusual activity. For the first time in weeks, humans moved with purpose that was not born of fear or desperation. The massive shapes of the Deathworlder ships loomed at the edge of the colony, their dark, angular surfaces reflecting the dull light like polished stone. Though intimidating in appearance, the aliens were calm, deliberate, and most importantly, here to help. Captain Alara Wynn stood on the observation deck again, this time joined by Dr. Malik and a handful of engineers. They watched as the first Deathworlders descended onto the surface. Unlike humans, they moved without hesitation across the rough terrain, stepping over jagged rocks and uneven ground with ease. Dust swirled around their massive forms, yet they remained unshaken. "Look at them," Malik said quietly, awe in his voice. "They don't even need protective suits for this atmosphere. They are perfect survivors." Alara nodded. She had read about the Deathworlders, of course. Every human in the galaxy had. But seeing them in person was another matter. They were larger than most humans, their bodies covered in a textured, armor-like skin that shimmered faintly under Remora 9's sun. Their movements were fluid, precise, and almost mesmerizing. Yet, despite their size and strange appearance, there was no threat in their presence. The humans waited as the Deathworlders approached the main life support hub. The aliens studied the failing machinery with quiet attention, their eyes scanning, calculating, and absorbing information faster than any human could process. Then, as if deciding something, they began to work. Communication was the first challenge. The Deathworlders spoke in a deep, resonant language, a series of vibrations that humans could not produce or fully understand. At first, it was confusing. Humans tried speaking, waving, and using hand signals, but the aliens did not respond immediately. Then slowly patterns began to emerge. The translator device hummed and vibrated, slowly converting the alien pulses into basic human phrases. "Water source weak," it said. "Air system unstable. Correction possible." The humans exchanged looks of relief. At least they understood the general meaning. Jaren, the communications officer, tried speaking again, this time using short, clear phrases and gestures. "We need help with oxygen and water. Can you help?" The Deathworlders paused, then one stepped forward, tapping the translator. A new phrase appeared. "Yes, we will help. Observe and follow." With that, the work began. Humans watched closely as the aliens moved among the machines, touching controls, adjusting valves, and working with a level of precision that was astonishing. They did not speak much, but their actions were clear. A small group of humans, led by Dr. Malik, was allowed to follow the Deathworlders step by step, observing the methods and learning how to integrate them with human technology. The first lesson was water. Remora 9 had scarce natural water, and what existed was contaminated with minerals that could damage human systems. The Deathworlders led the humans to a shallow, rocky stream outside the colony. They demonstrated a method of filtering water using native minerals and natural layers of stone, creating a simple yet highly effective filtration system. Humans copied the method, using the technology available to them, and within hours, clean water flowed steadily into the colony. Next came air. The oxygen recycler was failing because of dust clogging the filters and mechanical components. The Deathworlders did not use the human machines in the same way. They tapped the system, adjusted pressure points, and reinforced airflow channels with a combination of alien materials and human tools. Slowly, the system stabilized. Oxygen levels rose, and the crew could breathe more easily. Alara walked among the workers, feeling a strange sense of pride and wonder. Humans were learning from creatures that had evolved to thrive where no human could survive. And yet, humans were not helpless. They adapted quickly, combining alien techniques with their own ingenuity. The collaboration was a dance of intelligence, a blend of human curiosity and Deathworlder endurance. By midday, the colony was starting to change. Structures that had been weak and prone to collapse now seemed stronger, reinforced with alien methods and materials. Dust-resistant coatings, drainage systems to prevent flooding from rare storms, and new plant beds for food production all began to take shape. Humans worked tirelessly alongside the aliens, learning, experimenting, and slowly understanding that survival on Remora 9 was not impossible. It just required new thinking. The Deathworlders were patient teachers. They did not rush the humans or scold mistakes. When a human accidentally misapplied a reinforcement to a building, one alien simply demonstrated the correct method again, allowing the human to try repeatedly until it worked. Alara realized that this approach was profoundly different from anything humans had experienced. The Deathworlders' patience was infinite, as if time itself was less important than the success of the task. Despite the effectiveness of their methods, the aliens were not invincible. The terrain itself challenged even them. During a survey of the colony's outer perimeter, a sudden mini-storm swept through. Wind gusts strong enough to topple human equipment sent dust and debris into the air. The Deathworlders moved through it as if it were nothing, yet humans had to take cover. From this, the humans learned quickly. Adaptation was key, and working with the Deathworlders required observation and courage. By evening, a quiet sense of accomplishment settled over the colony. The immediate crises, water, air, and basic structural integrity, had been addressed. The humans gathered in the main hub to rest and observe. The Deathworlders, silent but attentive, stayed nearby, their forms almost statuesque as they monitored the systems. Ilara could not help but notice how the aliens' behavior reflected something deeply human: care for survival, a meticulous attention to detail, and a methodical approach to problem-solving. Yet, there was a difference, too. The Deathworlders lacked the humor, the impatience, and the creativity that humans carried. It was as if humans and Deathworlders were two sides of the same coin, one adaptable, imaginative, and emotional, the other precise, enduring, and methodical. Jaren approached Ilara, his face lit by the soft glow of the console. "I can't believe this is real. We expected help from some distant fleet, maybe a human crew with supplies, but these are something else entirely." Ilara smiled faintly. "We called for help. And the universe sent teachers. It's unexpected, but we survive. Humans survive because we learn, adapt, and keep going. These Deathworlders, they just happen to show us new ways to do it." That night, humans worked alongside the aliens to prepare for the next day. They reinforced shelters, set up water channels, and practiced operating new filtration systems. Even the children of the colony, supervised and safe, watched with fascination as the Deathworlders demonstrated techniques that seemed like magic to human eyes. By midnight, Remora 9 had transformed subtly but significantly. The colony, once fragile and desperate, now bore the marks of cooperation. Life support systems hummed steadily. Water flowed cleanly through new channels. Buildings were stronger, ready to resist the next storm. And humans, tired but hopeful, realized they were no longer alone in their struggle. Ilara stood once again on the observation deck. The red sky stretched endlessly, dust swirling in soft eddies that caught the faint light of Remora 9 twin moons. The Deathworlders remained outside the hub, silent sentinels of endurance and resilience. Humans, small and fragile though they might be, had learned from them, and in learning they had grown stronger. She felt something swell inside her, a quiet, unshakable pride. Humans had called out for help, yes, but they had also shown courage, intelligence, and adaptability. In return, they had gained allies unlike any they had ever imagined. The stars above Remora 9 shone coldly, indifferent to the struggles below. But on the planet's surface, there was warmth, cooperation, and the beginning of understanding between two very different species. The Deathworlders had come not to dominate, not to replace, but to guide. And humans, as always, were ready to take that guidance and turn it into survival, growth, and perhaps even friendship. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More storms, more systems to stabilize, and more lessons to learn. But for the first time in weeks, the humans of Remora 9 felt a cautious optimism. The Deathworlders had arrived, and with them came not just survival, but the possibility of a future shaped by cooperation, ingenuity, and mutual respect. And Ilara knew one thing with certainty: humans might be small in the vastness of space, but when they called for help, they did not simply wait. They adapted, they learned, and they thrived. On Remora 9, the first day of that cooperation was coming to a close. The humans slept fitfully, but with hope. The Deathworlders remained vigilant, watching, listening, and preparing for the next day. Together, the two species had begun a journey that could change not just the fate of a colony, but the understanding of what humans and Deathworlders could achieve when united by a common purpose. Remora 9 morning sky was hazy, the red dust still drifting from the previous night storm. The colony had survived another night, thanks to the combined efforts of humans and Deathworlders. But survival was only the first step. To truly thrive, humans needed to learn, adapt, and grow. Captain Ilara Wynn walked along the outer perimeter of the colony, accompanied by Dr. Malik and a group of engineers. The Deathworlders moved beside them, silent and purposeful. Today, the aliens planned to teach the humans some of their most essential skills for living on a harsh planet: resource management, efficient energy use, and crop cultivation in extreme conditions. "Observe first," one of the Deathworlders said through the translator device. Its deep voice resonated through the speakers, commanding attention without threat. The humans nodded. They had learned the value of observation over the past day. Rushing or guessing often led to mistakes. Careful watching led to understanding. The first lesson was water conservation. Despite the filtration systems already in place, water was still precious on Remora 9. The Deathworlders demonstrated how to harvest moisture from the air using large, angled panels made from native minerals. These panels drew water from the atmosphere, condensing it into small pools that could then be collected safely. Humans tried to replicate the process using their own materials. At first, the efficiency was low. Doctor. Malik frowned as only a few droplets formed in their makeshift panels. The Deathworlder beside him made a series of slow, deliberate gestures, pointing out adjustments in angle and surface texture. Within hours, humans managed to increase the yield several times over. "This is incredible," Malik said, his voice filled with wonder. "We always thought we needed technology for this, but it's mostly understanding how the world works." Alara smiled. "That's humans' strength. We combine observation with creativity. Even if something seems impossible, we figure out a way." Next came crop cultivation. Remora 9 soil was rocky and nutrient-poor. Humans had tried traditional hydroponics, but the system was fragile and prone to failure. The Deathworlders introduced techniques that seemed almost magical to human eyes. They dug shallow terraces in the rocky ground, layering soil with crushed minerals to mimic more fertile conditions. Then, using a mixture of local water and mineral-rich solutions, they planted seeds in patterns that maximized sunlight and minimized evaporation. Humans followed closely, copying every movement. When they made mistakes, planting too close together or watering unevenly, the Deathworlders simply demonstrated the correct method again, allowing the humans to try until they succeeded. By mid-morning, small green shoots began to appear in the terraces. The humans cheered softly, proud of their accomplishment. Even the youngest members of the colony, watching from safe observation points, clapped and pointed at the tiny signs of life emerging from the harsh red soil. Alara felt a swell of pride. "This is more than survival," she said. "We're learning to live here. We're making this place home." The next lesson involved shelter reinforcement. The previous night's dust storm had shaken even the sturdiest buildings. The Deathworlders showed humans how to use local rocks and their own lightweight alloys to create structural supports that would bend rather than break under pressure. The aliens demonstrated clever anchoring methods and modular panels that could be easily repaired or replaced. Humans eagerly applied these methods to the colony's buildings. Jaren worked alongside a Deathworlder, installing panels with careful precision. Sweat ran down his face, but a bright smile never left his lips. "It's amazing," he said. "I never thought of building like this. It's so simple and yet so strong." The colony's children, curious and brave, were allowed to watch under supervision. They learned quickly, copying the motions and even suggesting small improvements based on human experience. Alara watched them with a smile. Humans were small and fragile, yes, but their minds were sharp and inventive. This combination of Deathworlder endurance and human creativity was shaping the colony in ways that neither species could achieve alone. By afternoon, the team faced a challenge. A sudden mini-storm had begun to form over the terrace gardens. Strong winds threatened to wash away soil and young plants. The humans and Deathworlders acted immediately. Using a combination of reinforced panels, temporary wind barriers, and clever anchoring techniques, they protected the crops. The humans learned quickly from the Deathworlders' methods. Every adjustment was a lesson in patience, observation, and understanding the environment. Within an hour, the terrace gardens were secure. The mini-storm passed, leaving the plants intact. Humans clapped, and even the Deathworlders seemed to acknowledge the success with a low, vibrating hum that the translator interpreted as, "Well done." Alara felt a deep satisfaction. Survival on Remora 9 was no longer a matter of luck. With the Deathworlders' guidance and human determination, the colony was learning to thrive. The final lesson of the day focused on energy management. Remora 9 solar panels were inefficient in the dusty environment. The Deathworlders introduced a system of reflective panels and energy storage units that optimized sunlight capture. Humans were fascinated by the simplicity and effectiveness of the design. They worked together to integrate these methods with the existing colony infrastructure. By evening, the colony was transformed. The life support systems ran more efficiently, water was collected from both streams and air, crops were planted in thriving terraces, and buildings were reinforced against the harsh storms. Humans and Deathworlders alike stood back to admire their work. Alara's heart swelled with pride. The Deathworlders were incredible teachers, yes, but humans had proven themselves as worthy learners. They had watched, adapted, and implemented techniques that would ensure the colony's survival for years to come. That night, as the twin moons of Remora 9 cast a soft glow over the red landscape, humans and Deathworlders gathered in the central hub. The atmosphere was calm, almost celebratory. The humans shared simple food, water, and stories of their journey to this distant world. The Deathworlders, though not communicative in the same way, participated in the ritual, their rhythmic movements adding a sense of ceremony to the gathering. Alara watched from the edge of the crowd. Humans had always thrived on challenges. Whether in the deserts of Earth, the frozen poles, or the crowded cities of distant planets, they had adapted, learned, and grown stronger. Now, on Remora 9, they were proving that once again. "What do you think they think of us?" asked Jaren quietly, standing beside her. Alara considered the question. "I think they respect us," she said. "They see our curiosity, our determination, and our willingness to learn. They've lived in harsh conditions for so long, yet they still acknowledge that humans can survive too, maybe even thrive." The translator device chimed softly, converting the Deathworlders' low vibrations into human phrases. "You are adaptable. You are strong. Continue to learn." Alara smiled. "That's all we can do," she said softly. "Learn, adapt, and keep moving forward." The night passed quietly, with humans resting and Deathworlders monitoring the systems. For the first time, the colony felt like more than just a fragile outpost on a hostile world. It felt like a place where knowledge, effort, and cooperation could turn a desolate planet into a home. When dawn broke, Remora 9 looked different. The terraces of green plants glowed faintly in the rising light. Water channels reflected the soft morning sun. Reinforced buildings stood sturdily against the wind. Humans moved with confidence, performing tasks with the knowledge that they had learned new skills, gained new allies, and become stronger than they were the day before. Alara took a deep breath, feeling the cool, filtered air fill her lungs. "Today was the first real step," she said quietly. "We're not just surviving anymore, we're learning to live here. And if we continue like this, Remora 9 will become a place of hope and growth, not just struggle." The Deathworlders, silent and imposing, observed from nearby, their presence a constant reminder of what could be achieved when two species work together. Humans might be small and fragile, but their intelligence, adaptability, and determination were unmatched. And as the sun climbed higher, dust swirling softly in its light, Alara knew one thing for certain: humans were not just survivors. They were learners, innovators, and pioneers. On Remora 9, under the guidance of the Deathworlders, they were beginning to prove just how extraordinary humanity could be, even on a planet designed to challenge every limit. The colony of Remora 9 had changed in subtle but profound ways since the Deathworlders had arrived. Where once the humans had scrambled to maintain basic life support, now the colony hummed with activity that was purposeful and coordinated. Green terraces of crops dotted the red landscape, and water channels glimmered under the faint light of Remora 9 twin moons. Structures that had been fragile and rattled by every storm now stood firm, reinforced with techniques both human and alien. Captain Alara Wynn walked among the terraces, her eyes bright with curiosity. Today's lesson involved crop care during high-wind periods, a natural challenge for the colony. The Deathworlders demonstrated how to use lightweight barriers, angled to reduce wind damage while allowing sunlight to reach the plants. Humans followed carefully, adjusting placements according to guidance from the aliens. "You know," Jaren said, bending over a row of young plants, "I never thought I'd be learning farming from aliens, but it works. It really works." Alara smiled. "That's humans for you," she replied. "We adapt, we learn, and we make it our own. That's what makes us us." As the day progressed, humans and Deathworlders moved seamlessly together. Observation became instruction, instruction became action, and action became results. Each day, the humans absorbed more of the Deathworlders' wisdom, while also contributing their own insights. It was a partnership based on respect and curiosity. By mid-morning, the humans were given a task to construct a new shelter system for a small research outpost on the colony's outskirts. The Deathworlders showed how to use local rocks, flexible alien alloys, and modular designs to create structures that could withstand both wind and dust storms. Humans worked diligently, lifting, adjusting, and assembling with precision. One of the younger engineers, a woman named Leora, paused to look up at the Deathworlder beside her. "I think they're impressed with us," she whispered. "Not just with what we're building, but with how we think." Ilara nodded quietly. Humans were inventive in ways that the Deathworlders could not anticipate. The aliens had endurance, survival instincts, and methodical intelligence, but creativity, empathy, and adaptability were uniquely human traits. That combination made their collaboration extraordinary. As they worked, the humans began to notice subtle behaviors of the Deathworlders that revealed their personalities. They were not emotional in the human sense, but they had routines, preferences, and even humor of a kind. One alien tapped rhythmically on a panel, producing a sound that Jaren mimicked with a laugh. The translator device rendered a phrase, amusing, continue. Even the smallest gestures became bridges between two very different species. By afternoon, the new shelters were nearly complete. The structures were strong, efficient, and surprisingly elegant, combining alien endurance with human practicality. Ilara and Dr. Malik walked through the rows of buildings, checking stability and functionality. "You know," Malik said thoughtfully, "I think the Deathworlders are learning from us too. Look at how they pause when we suggest small changes. They notice, they adapt just like we do." Ilara agreed. Cooperation was a two-way street. While the humans were learning survival techniques, the Deathworlders were absorbing strategies for innovation, adaptation, and even subtle communication. It was a mutual education, and both species benefited. As the sun dipped low in the red sky, a sudden gust of wind swept across the terrace gardens. It was a small storm compared to others, but enough to test the new barriers and reinforced shelters. Humans and Deathworlders sprang into action together. Panels were adjusted, stakes secured, and the fragile young crops were shielded from damage. After an hour of coordinated effort, the storm passed, leaving the terraces intact and the buildings unharmed. The humans cheered softly, proud of their work and their partnership. The translator hummed, "Successful, you are capable." Ilara looked around at the scene, at humans and Deathworlders side by side, working with calm determination. A sense of warmth filled her chest. She realized that this bond was deeper than survival. It was a connection born of trust, respect, and shared purpose. Later that evening, the colony gathered for a small celebration. Humans shared food, simple games, and laughter, while the Deathworlders performed rhythmic movements that added a ceremonial feel to the gathering. Children giggled as they mimicked the alien gestures, and even the adults joined in, learning the rhythms and patterns. Ilara watched from the edge, her mind reflecting on the journey so far. Humans had called out for help in their moment of need, and the Deathworlders had answered. But what had started as assistance had evolved into something more profound. A true collaboration, a blending of knowledge, and the beginning of friendship across species. "Do you think they understand how much we admire them?" Jaren asked softly. Ilara considered this. "They understand respect and they understand effort. That's enough. We don't need them to admire us like we admire them." Cooperation isn't about admiration. It's about learning and working together. As the night deepened, humans and Deathworlders continued to share small stories, observations, and techniques. The translator allowed simple messages to flow back and forth. Humans explaining Earth customs, Deathworlders demonstrating survival methods honed over centuries on harsher worlds. Every interaction strengthened the bond between the species. By midnight, the colony was quiet, but the feeling of connection lingered. Humans slept with newfound confidence, knowing that they had allies unlike any they had ever imagined. The Deathworlders stood watch outside, silent and imposing, yet protective in their own way. Ilara found herself thinking about the future. Today, humans had learned to survive storms, grow crops in difficult soil, and build structures that could withstand harsh conditions. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, perhaps more complex and demanding, but humans were ready. They had learned to observe, to adapt, and to trust in both themselves and their allies. She turned her gaze to the horizon, where faint lights of the alien ships shimmered under Remora 9 moons. The Deathworlders were not only teachers, they were partners. And humans, small and fragile though they might be, had shown that they were capable of growth, innovation, and cooperation on a scale that could surprise even the most experienced aliens. Ilara whispered to herself, a quiet promise for the days to come. "We will thrive here. We will learn, and we will honor the trust placed in us. The night passed with calm certainty. Humans rested, children dreamed of gardens and inventions, and Deathworlders monitored the colony, ready to respond to any new challenges. The bond between the species had become stronger, rooted in mutual respect, shared effort, and a deep understanding of survival. By morning, Remora 9 felt alive in a new way. The terraces glistened with dew collected from the previous night's condensation systems. Water channels reflected the pale light of the rising sun. Buildings stood firm and efficient, a testament to the combined ingenuity of humans and Deathworlders. Captain Alara Wynn took a deep breath, feeling the filtered, clean air fill her lungs. She looked around at her people and their alien allies, realizing something profoundly human. Strength was not only in survival, nor only in tools, nor only in instinct. It was in curiosity, cooperation, and the courage to embrace the unknown. Humans had cried out for help, and the Deathworlders had come. But now, the colony was more than a site of survival. It was a place of growth, learning, and hope, a demonstration of what humans could achieve even on a planet that challenged every limit. Alara smiled quietly to herself. Tomorrow would bring more work, more learning, and undoubtedly more storms. But humans had proven once again that even in the harshest conditions, they were capable of adaptation, innovation, and friendship. And somewhere in the deep red plains of Remora 9, as the twin moons cast their pale glow, the humans and Deathworlders together prepared for the next challenge, ready to face the future with determination, respect, and a growing sense of unity. The sun of Remora 9 rose slowly over the red plains, casting a warm glow across the terraces of green crops and the reinforced buildings of the colony. The air was crisp and clean, filtered through both human and Deathworlder systems, carrying a faint scent of soil and mineral. For the first time in weeks, the colony seemed like more than a fragile outpost. It seemed alive, thriving, and ready for the future. Captain Alara Wynn walked among her people, observing the results of their combined efforts with the Deathworlders. Engineers were adjusting water channels, children tended to small garden beds, and researchers studied soil layers and weather patterns. The aliens moved among them with quiet assurance, observing, guiding, and occasionally demonstrating methods that humans were beginning to understand and implement on their own. Alara paused at the edge of a new water reservoir, watching as Dr. Malik adjusted a filtration panel based on a suggestion he had observed from a Deathworlder. "This is incredible," Malik said, turning to her with a smile. "We're doing it ourselves now. We're not just following, we're learning, adapting, and improving." Alara nodded. That was the essence of humanity. To learn quickly, adapt creatively, and find solutions even in the most difficult conditions. The Deathworlders had taught them endurance, patience, and survival techniques, but humans had transformed that knowledge into something uniquely their own. The day's main focus was expanding the colony's terrace gardens. With food supplies stabilized, it was time to increase production to support future growth. The Deathworlders led a demonstration of advanced planting techniques, showing how to layer soil, distribute water efficiently, and create natural windbreaks using rocks and mineral panels. Humans watched carefully, took notes, and then applied what they had learned, adding their own innovations. Leora, one of the younger engineers, knelt beside a row of seedlings, adjusting a small water channel. "I never thought I'd be able to manage this on my own," she said quietly, a hint of awe in her voice. "But now, I think we can." Nearby, children mimicked the movements of the Deathworlders, gently tending the plants under supervision. Their laughter echoed through the terraces, a joyful sound that spoke of hope, growth, and the promise of a future built on cooperation. While the humans worked, the Deathworlders began surveying the perimeter of the colony. Their purpose was clear: to ensure that Remora 9 could withstand the storms that had previously threatened every fragile system. They moved methodically, reinforcing structural supports, adjusting wind channels, and identifying potential hazards. Humans followed, learning to recognize environmental patterns and predict challenges before they arose. Alara observed the scene and felt a profound sense of pride. Humans were no longer helpless on Remora 9. They had learned to survive, adapt, and even innovate alongside a species far stronger and more enduring than themselves. This was not just survival, it was growth, partnership, and transformation. By mid-afternoon, the colony faced a test. A sudden, intense windstorm began to rise from the distant plains. Dust and debris whipped across the terraces, threatening the young plants and fragile structures. Humans and Deathworlders worked together seamlessly. Panels were secured, barriers adjusted, and water channels protected. Children were guided to safe observation points, while adults moved quickly and confidently to reinforce critical areas. The storm raged for hours, yet the colony stood firm. Where humans alone might have faltered, the combination of Deathworlder endurance and human ingenuity ensured that every structure and every terrace survived intact. When the wind finally subsided, the humans cheered quietly, proud of their accomplishment. Alara turned to the nearest Deathworlder, placing her hand gently on the translator device. "We've done it, together!" The alien responded in low, vibrating tones that the device translated, "Together. You are capable. You will thrive." That evening, the colony gathered for a celebration of achievement. Humans shared simple food and water, recounting the day's successes, while Deathworlders performed their rhythmic movements, a ceremonial acknowledgement of the humans' perseverance and skill. The translator rendered the vibrations into words, knowledge shared, strength respected, future secured. Captain Alara stood at the center, watching humans and Deathworlders alike. "We've learned so much," she said softly, addressing her people. "Not just about survival, but about partnership, about trust, and about what humans are truly capable of. We can face this planet and any challenge because we learn, adapt, and work together." Dr. Malik nodded beside her. "And we've also shown them what humans can offer. They see our creativity, our curiosity, and our problem-solving skills. We are small, yes, but we are strong in ways that no one else can match." The night passed quietly, the colony glowing softly under the light of Remora 9 moons. Humans slept with confidence, knowing that they had allies, knowledge, and the skills to thrive. Deathworlders remained vigilant, a silent testament to endurance, patience, and understanding. The following days were filled with refinement and preparation. Humans and Deathworlders worked together to map water sources, reinforce structures, and expand crop production. Lessons continued, each one building on the last, ensuring that the colony would not only survive but flourish. Alara found a moment of quiet to walk through the terraces, observing the small green shoots growing steadily. The children waved at her, smiling proudly. She smiled back. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself. "We will grow stronger every day. This is our home now, and we will make it thrive." By the end of the week, the Deathworlders had completed their major work on Remora 9. They had left behind detailed guides, blueprints, and materials designed to integrate with human systems. Humans could now continue the work independently, applying both their own innovations and the knowledge gained from the aliens. It was time for the Deathworlders to leave. Their departure was quiet and dignified. Humans gathered to watch as the massive ships lifted from the ground, their movements precise and calm. The translator rendered one final message: "You are capable, you are resilient. Continue to learn, continue to thrive." Alara felt a mixture of gratitude and pride. Humans had been given a gift, knowledge, guidance, and partnership. But they had also proven themselves. They had absorbed lessons, applied them creatively, and demonstrated the qualities that made humanity remarkable. As the alien ships disappeared into the sky, humans turned back to their work. The colony was no longer fragile. It was alive, adaptive, and ready for the future. Alara gathered her team in the central hub. "We have everything we need to survive and grow. The Deathworlders have given us guidance, but it's up to us now. Every problem we face, every challenge we encounter, we will overcome, not because we are alone, but because we are humans. We adapt, we learn, and we thrive." The team nodded, determination shining in their eyes. They were small and fragile compared to the vastness of space, yes, but they were also clever, resourceful, and unyielding in the face of challenges. Over the following weeks, Remora 9 blossomed. Terrace gardens expanded into larger fields, water systems became more efficient, and shelters were fortified to withstand the harshest storms. Children learned alongside their parents, absorbing lessons about resourcefulness, observation, and cooperation. Alara stood once more on the observation deck, watching the colony thrive. She realized that the humans had done more than survive. They had grown, learned, and demonstrated the true strength of humanity. Even on a world designed to challenge every limit, humans had proven themselves capable of adaptation, innovation, and leadership. She sent a final message into the stars, a note of hope and invitation. Rimora 9 colony stable, humans thriving, knowledge shared. Friendship welcomed, the stars twinkled silently in response. Somewhere, countless worlds waited, but Rimora 9 was secure. Humans had called out for help, and while the Deathworlders had come, the humans themselves had become stronger, wiser, and more capable than they had ever imagined. As night fell and the moons cast a gentle light over the red plains, Captain Alara Wynn looked over her people, proud and hopeful. Humans were small, yes, but they were resilient. They were curious, inventive, and courageous. They had survived when odds were against them. And on Rimora 9, they had learned that with cooperation, knowledge, and determination, humanity could thrive anywhere, even on a death world. The colony rested under the stars, alive with possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new opportunities. But humans were ready. They had faced the harshest conditions, learned from the most unexpected teachers, and proven that they could adapt, grow, and prosper. Rimora 9 was no longer just a struggle for survival. It had become a testament to humanity's spirit, ingenuity, and capacity for cooperation. An enduring reminder that humans could rise, even in the harshest corners of the galaxy, and thrive against all odds. And so, under the red sky and the gentle glow of twin moons, humans and the lessons of the Deathworlders would carry forward, building a future where hope, knowledge, and resilience would flourish on Rimora 9 for generations to come.